Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm joined by Logan Glaser of RealTime Fantasy Sports once again. Logan, thanks so much for coming on the show as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Playoffs, they're here.
It's playoffs, Logan, and that doesn't mean your fantasy season has to come to an end. We have all sorts of great contests here at RealTime Fantasy Sports for the playoffs. Just numerous things to do. Our big one, though, is our Wager Wire postseason shootout contest. It is the Wager Wire postseason shootout contest this year. They're our title sponsor, $100,000 grand prize for this. It is an amazing contest. We're so excited to partner with Wager Wire with this contest as well. And we're going to be joined by both Zach Doctor and Travis Geiger today from Wager Wire. And they're going to talk to us about how they're going to sponsor this contest and our partnership with them going forward as well. But we're really excited to partner with them, right, Logan?
Yep, absolutely. Great people and great company to work with. And this contest, there's so much. $100,000 in first place. I think that's our second highest payout on the site. It's the highest for postseason. We got the $500,000 TFC. But yeah, $100,000 and top 200 places get paid. It's a very strategical contest as well. You pick your own team, max 2 players per NFL team. So there's a lot of strategy involved with selecting your lineup with that.
It is a tough contest. Like you said, it's totally different. That's why I always tell people if they've never done fantasy contests, it's fantasy playoff contest. It is different than the regular season. It's a whole different animal. There's all different types of strategies with this. With this one, like you said, it's a set roster before the playoffs, not a draft. But you can't pick more than 2 people from a specific NFL team. So you have to figure out what teams are going to advance the farthest or what teams are going to play the most games in this pool of players you pick before they get knocked out, and try to maximize those points at positions as well. I mean, what do you do at kicker, at defense? Do you go for the higher scoring ones? You try to go for the ones that are just going to play a couple games. I mean, there's all sorts of different things to do. So we're going to talk about strategy, our strategies for the contest. We're going to give you our lineups later on in the show. But before we do that, we're going to talk to both Zach and Travis here now. So if we could bring them up, we'll get them on here. Zach, Travis, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate you guys joining us.
Hey, yeah, thanks a lot for having us. Excited to be teaming up with you guys and coming on the show and meeting the community and everything. This is awesome.
So before we get into the contest and everything strategy-wise as well, you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves? What do you guys do there at Wager Wire?
Sounds good. Yeah. So you got 2 of the 3 co-founders of Wager Wire here. We do have a third, Guy Doughton, as well. But we were all UCLA buddies going way back. And we founded Wager Wire after one fateful night on the couch where, I had placed a bet before Thursday night kickoff on the Packers, and Travis got home late from work, and we were roommates at the time. And he didn't want to take the live line, right? He wanted to ride the exact same bet as me. So he Venmoed me $50 at the time, and we figured out the split of him buying into my bet. And we had that light bulb moment. And then we built out Wager Wire from there on, where we are a marketplace technology company that powers trading of bets, trading of fantasy entries. We work with awesome partners like RT Sports to basically power, marketplace trading functionality for their action. And then, my background is in business. I'm the CEO, and Travis is our CXO, and he can introduce himself here. I'll hand it to Trav.
Yeah, go ahead, Travis.
Hey, thanks, guys. Good to see everybody. So CXO sounds made up, but it's Chief Experience Officer. Since we were founders and we could just choose from the alphabet, I thought, people want to be invited into an experience more than they want to be marketed at. So that's what we're here to do. We're inviting people into the experience of the postseason shootout contest and the experience and community of real-time sports. I think that this is really fun, right? Because it doesn't just have to be you against real time or you against the house, or even when you're in leagues with friends, it can feel a little bit limiting. This really opens it up. It takes your picks, your knowledge, and makes it a story that's not just a win-loss. It's almost as dynamic as the players themselves. Maybe one entry of your pick could hit, or 2 or 3, and maybe that's how you're building it. You're building it to gain value as you go, just so you can capture some of that on the back end by selling your bet. Maybe you end up selling it to your friend, like how Zach sold his to me. Sorry,
yeah,
entry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a different type of website that you guys have there, but we're really excited to partner with you guys. I think it's a great concept. So you're not only just doing the postseason shootout contest with us, which is really exciting, $100,000, and you guys are the title sponsor, but you're going to partner with us beyond that. So maybe we can tease that a little bit. It hasn't officially launched, but maybe you can tell everybody, Zach, how that's going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's true. So it's, the sponsorship for the contest is really the way to just kick everything off that we're doing together. And we're super excited to get into that too. And I want to talk game theory with you guys a little bit because it's my first time doing that. But yeah, we're actually plugging in right now. We're in that last kind of final stages of plugging in for the actual trading technology of, WagerWire Marketplace is going to be embedded right into RT Sports website. So when you do pick'em entries, at first, it's going to start with pick'em, where when you do the pick'em entries, you fill out, your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leggers. If you get through a couple legs, like Travis kind of hinting at there, like you can flip that for a profit. Actually, it's kind of it's an interesting way to go on offense with it. You think you could hit the first couple legs, maybe in the first slate of games that night, flip it in the later slate of games. You no longer have to get every single pick right. It's like you do have the mulligan functionality. You can even sell a mulligan entry if you want, if you're a couple legs into that. And then we're going to turn it on for fantasy leagues and DFS as well. That's going to be kind of the next step. And then you're even going to get RT Sports entries and teams selling in the WagerWire app too. So we're doing the full dealio. I know you guys have had Dynasty League trading in the off season for a while that we've heard about. That's really cool. So this is going to be similar, but in real time now. You're trading in real time, week in, week out, game day by day.
Wow, real time. It almost seems like it's on brand.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
I think this is going to be such a cool feature for all of our users, especially our top users, where they've got hundreds of different teams of best ball. You're in 10th place 10 weeks into the season, and you want to. You don't think that team's going to hold on. You can go ahead and sell that team eventually once we get that feature added in, and a good way to kind of hedge your team and kind of cash out with that.
Absolutely.
Yep, that's very exciting. We're very excited to partner with you guys. I think it's just going to be awesome to integrate this into our software and our company, and I think it's going to be great for all of our users as well, not just for us personally, but for our users. It's for our users because I think in the end, it really benefits them to have this opportunity to do something like this. So I think it's going to be just a lot of fun, and we're really excited to partner with you guys. And let's move into the postseason shootout contest. So Zach, you were kind of talking about with us a little bit. So you guys are the title sponsor. It's the WagerWire postseason shootout contest, but this is new to you. You've never really done anything like this, I don't think. So when you look at this contest, what are your initial thoughts on strategy? Like, how are you going to approach this? Have you made a lineup yet? What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So I actually did go for the full 3 lineups because I want to be able to kind of play a couple of different strategies because I am new to it. But, where my intuition went with it right away was you want to have your best players still alive at the end of it, right? You want to have guys, probably your quarterbacks that are in the Super Bowl, top running backs or receivers on those teams. So in a bit, you're basically, at least me, I'm planning on doing 2 of my rosters kind of similar, where it has Baltimore versus Niners going against each other, which, you might see the jersey behind me. I am a big Niner fan. I do believe in us. I do believe in us this year. I'm a little nervous for Baltimore, honestly. I don't know if Lamar really wins in January. But I think, so I'm going like McCaffrey and Purdy and Lamar, and I'm throwing in Zay Flowers as the other Baltimore option. I do think I like that stack for 2 of my rosters, and then I'm kind of changing everyone else. And then the third roster, I'm doing totally different. I'm like completely switching it up, like scrapping that mindset of it being Niners Ravens and going with a different matchup in my mind. So that's what I went with, but definitely curious to hear from you guys of what you've seen successful in the past, or what you're cooking up.
Yeah. Before we give away our secrets, Travis, how about you? Anything different that you want to do, or you found the same path as Zach?
Well, what I'm really interested in, after the shootout, when things go live, is just being able to tail people that actually know what they're doing with theirs in progress. But for now, because we don't have the trading on this particular contest, I'm taking my swing at it, and I'm choosing I'm doing one shot, one kill, just one entry. It's also the name of my entry. And I'm going on a very, potentially outsider chance of the Ravens playing the Lions in the Super Bowl. That's actually what I'm building towards, because then at least I got a snowball's chance if that outcome does hit. So unbelievably, I have Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson as my two quarterbacks, and then I got Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and a couple Lions on there. I got Tucker as my kicker, right? So that's my Super Bowl outcome. But then I padded around that with some little hedges, like I got McCaffrey in there, I put Travis Kelce in there, Tyreek Hill, Puka Nacua, So that's kind of like I'm like doing my ideal outcome hedged with the spoilers.
I like that. That's kind of the approach I'm doing as well. I don't know if Logan can speak to his approach as well, but I kind of feel like you do have to differentiate yourself a little bit. We've seen that in the past where you have to find that one player that not everybody's going to roster and hits big. And it's not easy to do, obviously, because if everybody could do it, they would stack the rosters with it. But I do think you want to kind of differentiate a tad. And I like the Amon-Ra St. Brown pick. I'm picking him on my rosters as well, just because I think they're going to get 2 games in. And if you look at it, like if you get these teams that have a first round bye and they don't make it to the championship, they're just getting 2 games in as well. So that's the same as the Lions or even Houston. So it's something you have to think about, especially when there's just 10 roster spots. So that's kind of the way I'm doing it. I'm trying to find teams with at least 2 games, hopefully 3, but I think that's the biggest strategy. Try to maybe differentiate a tad. Logan, you want to speak to your strategy at all?
Yeah, we've seen this contest play out the last 4 or 5 years with that, since it has started up with that. And the key is definitely to have your team advance. I will like to do stacks with 2 different players, 2 players on each of the teams. So, Ernie, do you have our lineup that you could bring up? Or I will go ahead and show my lineup with that. But I've got Dak, Lamar, McCaffrey, Pacheco, CeeDee Lamb, Flowers, Kelce, Samuel, and then Tampa Bay stack for my defense and kicker with that. So what I did was all these teams have the possibility of playing at least 3 games with this, besides Tampa Bay, because they'll be playing San Francisco. So one of those teams will only get it in 2 games. But Dallas has the possibility of playing 3 games along with Baltimore, KC, and San Francisco with that. So I'm basically rooting for a KC versus Baltimore conference finals, and then a Dallas versus San Francisco finals. If that happens, I'm going to be getting at least 3 games in with everyone. With Dak, if all he has to do is make it to the conference finals, and he'll get 3 games in, which 3 games is the max that Lamar and Purdy can get in. So even if he gets the conference finals, he's still getting 3 games in, compared to whereas someone from like Baltimore and San Francisco make it to the finals, they're only getting 3 games in as well with that. And then I also really like having a QB wide receiver stack. So if that goes off, you're going to get double points when those touchdowns occur. But what we've kind of seen in past is if a player goes out and gets 40 points, like say Amari Cooper goes down and gets 50 points like he did against Houston a couple weeks ago, that can easily be a huge winner. Because not many people are going to go out and roster Amari Cooper, but if he goes and gets those 50 points, or someone like Kyron Williams, I think he might be a little bit under-owned, and he has the possibility of a huge game for week 1 against Detroit. So players like that can definitely be sneaky.
That's interesting. That's super interesting. Yeah, because I would think a lot of people are going to take Lamar Jackson and Christian McCaffrey and kind of these guys. So it is interesting. Like if you go against the grain, but you get it right, then you're going to have a pretty good shot at winning it, I imagine.
Because Max, they're going to play as 3, but they're going to be so highly owned. I think they could be easily 60, 70% owned. McCaffrey's probably going to be 80 or 90% owned in this contest, if I had to guess. But again, it's hard to see them losing their first game and him not being a good value play to put in your lineup with that.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for me to fade McCaffrey, even with so many people owning him. I still think you got to have him. But I did want to talk about fades. So you guys talked about who you like. So Zach and Travis, anybody you're kind of avoiding, any big name players that you're not rostering that might surprise people?
I mean, personally, I'm fading the Chiefs. I don't think Chiefs make it very far. I actually think that the sentiment's getting a little crazy on the Dolphins never being able to win a game in the cold forever. Is that just going to be a thing? Like, not all their players are from hot places. Like, it's a professional team here. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Dolphins actually like bounce the Chiefs. But then in my like third bracket, so in my two main brackets, I'm not putting really any of those guys. But then in my third one, where I'm going kind of countering myself, I do have Pacheco and Kelsey in there. But that's a team that, you know, I don't have very high expectations with the way they were playing going towards the end of the year.
How about you, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, I'm avoiding the Packers this year and the Eagles this year. I think they're maybe not real. Steelers, I'm not touching, and the Chiefs, I like,
Yeah.
but I'm taking Travis Kelce for the inverse Taylor Swift, like Juju, just so I'm not pissed the whole time.
Right. Exactly.
I like it. So the playoffs in general, we got opening round games this weekend. A lot of good games on the slate. Do you guys see any upsets in these games, these first round games? I think there's definitely several toss up games. I mean, we have the Cowboys and the Bills Steelers matchup, which is not great. But besides that, I think there's some toss ups going on around here. Anything you see maybe surprising that happened in the first round? I know, Zach, you just said you think the Dolphins could win that game. Do you think they go in there and steal that one?
That's one that I'm circling as a possibility. I think it really depends how the game unfolds there, but I'm really excited for this Lions Rams game. I mean, I know everyone's been talking about that and kind of circling that one. You've got all the storylines with Goff and Stafford, you know, revenge games, and I think that one's going to be great. I like whoever was saying. I think Travis was saying he's got Detroit. He's got some Detroit skill guys in there. I like that too. I think that Detroit wins it, but it's close, and then, you know, it could be a shootout, I think, too. I wouldn't say Steelers don't have a chance too. Like, I'm taking them on the spread. I don't know about the money line there, or, you know, winning the game actually, but 10 points seem like a little much when it's gonna.
It's a big line,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. With that wind, we're hearing it's gonna be like freezing cold, windy. I could see that being like a, you know, 14-3 game or something. I guess that would blow it if you're on the 10, but like that could be, maybe take the under, and the teaser with the Steelers is maybe what I'm doing on that one. So yeah, those are some I'm watching that I'm curious to see play out. That, you know, what about you, Trav?
I agree with, like, you know, I think the Dolphins are a great team. If this might be their year, their window to do it. The Steelers, I would love to see them piss off some Bills fans just so they can spread the hate around. I don't think that the Browns are going to deliver the way that Cleveland thinks they're going to deliver. I mean, you look at Cincinnati, finally got their taste of a Super Bowl. It took us with Marvin Lewis 5 losses in wild card games before we got to taste that. So it's not going to come so easy, Cleveland. I'd look out for Texas.
I'm the same way. I kind of like the Texans as well. I think people are kind of sleeping on them. They're at home. You have Flacco turns the ball over a lot. I don't totally trust Cleveland going in there winning that game. I agree with you there, Travis. So I asked you guys about the opening round games. What about the Super Bowl before I let you go? Travis, you kind of already said who you like. Is that who you're sticking with? You like the Lions, Ravens? Is that what you said?
I'm sticking to Lions, Ravens.
Okay.
Crazy enough to work.
All right. How about you, Zach? Who's your Super Bowl prediction?
I'm definitely got Niners in there. You know, I do think Ravens are the best team in the AFC, but like I said, I don't trust Lamar in January, actually. So, and then I know I was just fading the Bills, but I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if it's Bills Niners as the Super Bowl. They've just been playing well in the last 5-6 weeks. I don't know that they cover the spread this week, but I think Bills could make a deep run. Yeah.
I got to ask you, as a Niners fan, though, Purdy, do you trust him? Do you think he's going to show up well in the playoffs here with his recent?
I do. Well, look, I think we're very good if we're clicking, right? If everything's healthy, if everyone's in, then I think we're the best. But it's such a thin margin, right? If anyone twists their ankle, if even Ayuk or Debo goes down, I think we just lose our mojo, and like it just doesn't work. And then we're very much a front running team that then relies on the defense, and we just get ahead. So there is kind of a playbook out there that the Ravens showed of like jump to a lead, and then it's tough for us to come back. So I'm a little nervous. I'm cautiously optimistic. I would definitely be nervous if it's another Ravens-Niners Super Bowl. Still have a bitter taste in my mouth from a decade ago in the Blackout Bowl, the Harbaugh Bowl, where the lights went off. We made the miracle comeback just to lose it at the end. And then Harbaugh's just have this magic right now. It feels like with Michigan winning too. So I don't know. I would be very nervous in that game, but I do see it as a Ravens-Niners Super Bowl, I think.
All right. So Zach, Dr. Travis Geiger, thanks so much for joining us. They're both with WagerWire. They're partnering with us here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. They're the title sponsor of the postseason shootout contest. So excited to have them and also partner with us. Before I let you guys go, though, how do people get to WagerWire? I don't know if we specifically said that, but how can they find you guys?
Yeah, so we are in the App Store, Google and
Okay.
Apple App Stores, so they can download the app and play around with it. And then follow us on Twitter at WagerWire is our main account, and we're a good hang on Twitter. We do Twitter Spaces 5 days a week, and I think we're actually doing one with you guys tonight to kind of do the inverse of this, where we introduce you guys to our community. And then I think it's at WagerWire Live on Instagram and TikTok. So give us a follow, and yeah, check out the app. Highly encourage everyone.
Come by the space tonight. Like Zach said, come by the space tonight. We'll be talking RT Sports. We'll be getting into the nuts and bolts, talking the contest at WagerWire on Twitter. We're also a good hang. And you'll be seeing a lot more of us. So it's just wanted to pop in, let everyone know we're here to stay, and we couldn't be more excited.
We're excited too, guys. Really, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it. We're really excited about our partnership going forward. Zach, Dr. Travis Geiger of WagerWire. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks
a lot.
See ya. All right, Logan. So now we're going to get into the contest ourselves. Postseason Fantasy Shootout, sponsored by WagerWire. We just talked about it. We kind of already gave our strategy a little bit, but before we get into that, we can talk about the rest of our contest real quick, Logan. We have several different contests we're running, not just the WagerWire postseason shootout, which we're really excited about. We have the Best Ball Championship, which is 66% sold out, $10,000 grand prize for that. We have our overtime leagues, which is just a draft. It's a league, different price points you can do, but it's a draft for the NFL playoffs. And then we have our playoff challenge, which is similar to the WagerWire postseason shootout, but you can pick any number of players from each team. So we have all sorts of different options, Logan, for the playoffs.
Yeah, there are so many different options, so many different styles as well with that. As you mentioned, that playoff blitz, 66% full. My guess is that's going to sell out late tomorrow night on the pace of that. So Friday night, that should be sold out. So make sure to hop in that one either today or tomorrow. My guess is those leagues will not be available on Saturday. So definitely be looking to get into those. But playoff challenge and overtime leagues will be running all the way up until kickoff of that very first playoff game. Playoff challenge have just been so popular this year. If you just look in our lobby, it's constantly filling. I mean, we just had up $20, $50, and $125 leagues, and I got requests to put up $250 leagues, and we're filling like 4 a day. It's just crazy how fast those are filling.
Well, it's easy to do. It's quick. You just set your lineup. You just pick your players. You don't have to do a draft. So I can see why people like them. They're good payouts. They're not huge leagues. I mean, we could talk a little bit about the strategy of that league, something like that. I just filled out my roster for that. We do one here through some people we work with. I don't know if you're in that league or not, but we have another one that we do one with people we work with as well. But this one was our other league, our fantasy league that we have. We do a playoff league as well, but it's the same thing. You fill out the roster, 14 spots. You pick 8 starters each week, 6 bench spots. So if you're doing that, how are you filling your roster?
Yeah, I'm doing kind of a mix. So you can obviously stack kind of Baltimore and San Francisco players on your bench. So you can take 6 of those players and there's no penalty really because you're not going to be losing out points. So say you go get McCaffrey on your bench and then maybe get like a Jahmyr Gibbs and Pollard also because one of those should make it a couple games into the playoffs, or on the other side you go with like James Cook, Pacheco, even if you went like a Gus Edwards with Baltimore. That's an okay option with that as well. But I'm kind of doing a mix with that. But I also kind of want to sprinkle in like Kyron Williams, who I think will be the top scoring running back for week 1, even though the Rams might lose. That's perfectly fine because then I'll have McCaffrey just sliding into his spot in week 2. So I get a lot of points from him in week 1 and then just slide in the top running back in the NFL for him.
There's a couple different things I think you can do. Like my main things, I'm trying to find the teams that I think are going to play in the championship games of both league for this contest specifically, where you can pick as many as you want. So if I think it's right now, I think it's Buffalo and the Ravens in the AFC, and I think it's Dallas and San Francisco in the NFC. So I'm loading my roster up with those in a contest like this. Or I've seen people also just load their roster with entire from one side of the conference. So they're making sure they have players for the playoffs. But if you would happen to miss, so if you pick Baltimore and Buffalo to go to the Super Bowl and Kansas City goes, then you're done. You don't have anybody left.
Yeah,
So
I think that happened to me a couple of years ago. I think I stacked Kansas City and Buffalo players with that, and then Cincinnati advanced. So I kind of lost out on that. So you definitely have to be cautious on that with those sleeper teams kind of making it through.
Yeah, so I like still trying to go with the 4. I like to try to find the 4 teams. I think 2 in the AFC and 2 in the NFC. They're going to advance all the way, and I like to load my roster in that. And that's what I kind of did with that league. So I don't know if that's the same way you kind of build.
Yeah, that's kind of the same way. It's just you pick your teams and you hope that they make it all the way through is essentially what it is. So you're kind of banking on them. If they do get an early exit, then you're in trouble. Again, if you spread it out across 4 teams, a little bit more variance. But if you're going like all San Francisco and then they lose and you don't have anyone in the championship game, then that'll hurt you big time.
So now we move to the overtime leagues, which is similar to Playoff Challenge, different price points. It's not one of our championships, but it's a draft. So you're drafting your team. How does your strategy change with that? I know you still want to get the guys that are going to go as far as you can, but as you get deeper into the draft, there's not as many of those guys there. I mean, would you rather have Justice Hill, who's going to go and maybe play 3 games, or would you rather have Aaron Jones, who's going to play 1 game? That's where you get in the question. It's kind of tough.
Absolutely, and that's why I love these playoff leagues because there's so much strategy involved with them. So, like as you mentioned, a Justice Hill or Aaron Jones. If I can go get a Justice Hill in like round 9 of that draft, and then come back and get like Aaron Jones is probably going near one of the last rounds just because no one's going to think the Packers
expects them to win. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can get Aaron Jones pretty late. So I actually think Justice Hill is going before Aaron Jones in those leagues. So I kind of want almost to get both of them just because you can have Justice Hill on your bench, but then you're also using Aaron Jones for the first week. So you're still getting a decent amount of points for that running back. But there's ADP has really started to take place in those leagues. McCaffrey's going number 1 with that. Lamb's going 2. And then it's kind of a mixture after that, 3 through 6. We see like Lamar going 3. We've seen Josh Allen going 4, Purdy 5, and then like Ayuk is 6, I believe is what the current ADP is with that. So it's definitely a lot of Baltimore and San Francisco players being taken early in those leagues. What I love about that league and with the playoff challenges, you do have that bench spot. So you're not penalized. So if you go take McCaffrey, as you mentioned, go get Aaron Jones at the very end. So you can just slide him in week 1 and put in McCaffrey afterwards.
Yeah, I didn't even realize we do have ADP listed for the playoffs, and I'm looking at it right now. So that's pretty awesome that we have that. You can access that. Is it on our homepages as well, or is it just through the draft guide? Do you know?
I believe it's just through the draft guide with that.
Okay, so if you go to our draft guide, which is free, it's freedraftguide.com. There's an ADP link, and you can look at the playoffs on there. Maybe I'll post that to my Twitter page as well, so people can see that who are doing these leagues. But it's a good tool to use because you can kind of get an idea of the lay of the land there and see where people are going. I mean, it's funny. You got Khalil Shakir getting drafted 107 ahead of some big name players like Dalton Schultz and other things. So it's different. It's a different strategy, these drafting leagues for the playoffs for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
So besides that, we do our best ball championship as well, Logan. Again, it's a little different than the Wager Wire postseason shootout because you don't just pick your lineup, you have to draft it again, and there's leagues for that. Can you talk about how that is set up, how that works a little bit?
So you get a roster size of or starting lineup of 5, roster size of 10, and it's best ball format. So you're going to take the best possible score from that position for your lineup for that week. In total, there's 2,000 teams in the contest. And it's an overall championship. So you're competing within your league to win $60, but there's also an overall prize where if you're in the top teams overall, first place is $10,000 and goes down from there with the overall payouts. So you can win a lot of money, and it's only $20 to enter that to win $10,000 for first place, along with league prizes with it. So
those rosters are really small, just 10.
they are. It does not include a defense or a kicker with those. So
Okay.
that's also something to notice. So you'll just be on the quarterback, running back, and then that wide receiver and tight end spot is combined, and then also a flex spot with it.
Yeah, so that's a draft. You want to sign up for that sooner than later, like Logan said. If you go to rtsports.com, click on that Money League link, you can see all these playoff offerings on there. But that best ball one's getting close to selling out. So I would do that sooner than later. Get on that if you want to get in that. So now let's go to the Wager Wire postseason shootout now, Logan, and talk about that. You kind of showed your lineup already for that and the strategy that you're going to use. I'll talk about mine now. So if we could bring that up here, and I'll show you what I did. So I went Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tony Pollard, Texans defense, and Harrison Butker. So I kind of like the Ravens and Bills to play in the championship for the AFC, and I like the Cowboys and 49ers to play in the NFC. So if you look at that too with San Francisco, so if that happens and they lose in the championship, they're just playing 2 games. So that's kind of why I went with Amon-Ra St. Brown as my flex play. I think he can get 2 games. I think they're going to win that game. And he's been producing so big, especially good down the stretch. So I think you have to find a player like that to round out at least your skill position players. And then I'm not going to use a high high team that I think is going to go far for my defense and kicker. So that's why I went Butker and Texans. I think they're going to get 2 games, each of those teams. I think Kansas City wins this week. I think Houston wins as well. So that's why I went that route. And I like James Cook too with Buffalo. That's one I hope I might differentiate myself a little bit. They've been running the ball a lot more. And Stephon Diggs hasn't been great. I like Kincaid, but I don't think I want to use a tight end for the wide receiver tight end spot or a flex spot because I think the other people I selected can produce bigger. So that's kind of how I felt with how I made my roster here. Not sure if it's a winning one. I hope it is. But Logan, can you talk about yours a little bit again? You don't have to go into as much detail, but
yeah, I'll go over mine a little bit. So I'm
it.
hoping for at least 3 games from everyone between my QB spot to my flex. So it technically can happen that each of those teams play 3 games, and then the defensive kicker spot only plays 2. So there is a pathway for all those teams to play at least 3 games. So I'm kind of hoping that pathway just kind of falls into place with that. With those kind of teams being favored with that. I went KC over Buffalo. I think Buffalo will win, but KC players will be lower owned than Buffalo. So I kind of just went with the lower owned play on that, just to kind of differentiate my lineup a little bit more. So I kind of do like having a little bit more lower owned players because I don't think Pacheco or Kelsey will be crazy owned. As we kind of talked about with that, whereas some of these other players will be pretty highly owned. So my goal is just to get as many games as possible with those stars in the lineups. But as I mentioned earlier, there's always a player that kind of just spurts out of nowhere and just has a crazy good game, which Amari Cooper, who's playing the Houston Texans a couple of weeks ago, as we mentioned, he had 50+ fantasy points against that game. If that happens, if you've got Cooper in your lineup, you're looking pretty dang good. So
I talked about it a little bit, Logan. I do like to differentiate a little bit when it comes to this contest, but I don't think you want to get too carried away because there's just 2 from each team. So I'm not going to pick up like a Brandon Cooks instead of CeeDee Lamb because I don't think that's a good strategy. I still think you want to try to get more of the better players, the high profile players. I mean, Gabe Davis is another one that's kind of intriguing. You could take a chance on him because he has a high ceiling, but I still think that's kind of risky. I might go another route than that.
Yeah, with that, like maybe 1 game throughout like the year that Brandon Cooks might outscore CeeDee Lamb, but you're looking at least like 3 games here. And it's not high odds over a 3-game span that someone like that is going to outscore CeeDee Lamb.
For sure. And if you want to see this page, it is up rtsports.com /experts. So you can see that, and you can get to the contest from that page as well. At the bottom of the page, there's a link there to go right to the Wager Wire postseason shootout. So those are our picks, and we're hoping that they come through and help everybody out in the contest. Logan, you want to talk briefly about the games before we get out of here
Yeah,
as well?
absolutely.
I mean, there's definitely some good games this week. We have, let me bring up the schedule here and we can go in order. So the first game is the Browns Texans. That's the first Saturday game. So Browns are favored by 2.5. So Texans are at home, not favored. I already mentioned I kind of like the Texans in this matchup. What about you?
Yeah,
You
it's
can go
hard for me. I
against
think
me.
this is a complete split. I do think this is
Yeah.
going to be a high scoring game, though. I do really like the over on this game of 44.5. So if I had to choose some type of side, I'm choosing the over instead of the team. I think this is going to be back and forth. They're playing in a dome. You don't have to worry about weather. Weather will be a concern on several games this week.
Yep.
So I really like the over on that game. It's a toss-up, though. I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last, who makes the last field goal.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a close game. I like the over too. It's 44.5 is the line. I don't know if I mentioned that. And it's -2.5 for Cleveland, and they're on the road. I think the Texans win and they cover that. I go with the over 2. I love David Njoku in this matchup. From a fantasy perspective, Texans are not good against the tight end. They struggled all year. Flacco has a great rapport with him. And with the Texans, I kind of like Devin Singletary a little bit this week. Browns have been a little more leaky against the run lately. So those are two players I'm kind of targeting in this matchup. Let's move on to the next one Saturday night. It is going to be freezing. It's Miami and Kansas City. That weather is going our way, Logan, here in St. Louis. So they're going to get it first. I think it was like -4 for the low on Monday here in St. Louis. So that's going to be coming from us from Kansas City. So it's going to be freezing at that game at night. It's -4.5 for the Chiefs. 44 for the over under. I mean, with that weather, kind of scares me. A lot of points being scored. So I might go the under, especially with both teams kind of struggling a little bit offensively. What are your feelings?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be in Kansas City. I'm not going to be going to the
Oh,
game, though. Luckily, that I'm not going to a game with those temperatures.
that's true. That's true.
But I will be there. And just looking at the weather, I think it was like -11. The wind chill's like -28.
Oh,
It's just
my.
going to be frigid. There's going to be some wind. I'm glad I'm not going, is what I'll say for that. But
Yeah.
the spread has been moving Casey's favor. I think it opened up Casey -2, and now it's up to Casey -4.5, as you mentioned.
I think it opened up too at like 47.5 for the over under, and it's moved down
Yeah.
a lot as well.
So it's definitely been going both ways with Kansas City and going down lower with that total on the under. I do think Kansas City wins this game. I just think they find a way. Miami's battling some injuries. I don't know if they cover, though, with that 4.5 spread. So I do think I would go Miami plus 4.5 with maybe a KC win by 3. I do think will be a close game. There's a lot of different player options you can kind of choose from for fantasy perspective, but the guy kind of really stands out to me would either be Pacheco or Kelsey. I don't think Kelsey's going to have a dud like he did sometimes during the regular season. There's even been hints of him possibly even retiring after that, after this year, just because how downhill he's gone over these past couple of weeks. But this is the playoffs. Mahomes is going to get Kelsey the ball. I think it's going to be simple as that, and they're going to ride him in this game. So
I agree with that. I could see a lot of Kelsey in this one. So I'm going with the over. I mean, the under, like I mentioned. So I like under 44. That line -4.5. That I don't know. I could see it being a 3-point game, but I could also see it being a 6-point game. So I might go with the Chiefs cover that. It'll be close though. It's one of those ones I'm probably staying away from because I just don't have a lot of confidence in it. But I do think the Chiefs win either way, pull out a win at home. Miami just has so many injuries. That's my concern on defense and offense. Offensive line's beat up. Defense remains beat up in the secondary along the defensive line. So they just seem to run out of gas last week personally. So for me, it would make sense to really go heavy running the ball Kansas City because of that, because they seemed to wear down last week playing against Buffalo, but I'm not sure they do that. So I'm not totally sold on Pacheco producing big. I like Rashee Rice in this matchup. He had a great rookie season, really good the second half of the year. He had a season high 127 yards his last game. Miami allows the 10th most fantasy points to receivers as well. So I think he does well here. And I like Devon Achane as well, another rookie with Miami. Raheem Mostert might play, but even if he plays, I think he could be limited, especially with this weather. It can't be good for someone who's battling an injury to be in negative 11-degree temperature. So I like Achane to get a lot of work, touchdowns 2 straight games. They're going to need to run the ball, I think, against a really good Chiefs pass defense as well. So I like Achane for a big showing here. All right, next game, Logan. It is the Steelers-Bills, -10 for the Bills, 36 for the over-under. Really low-scoring game, people think, and -10. A big number there. Do you think the Bills can cover that?
Yeah, I think I am going with the Bills to cover that. I think Steelers are probably one of the worst playoff teams in the field, just personally by looking at them. And they're also going to be without TJ Watt. So I think that is going to be a very big loss for them on the defensive side. I didn't think they were actually going to they made a nice little run their last 3 games after losing to the Cardinals, Patriots, and Colts. They came back and beat the Bengals, Seahawks, and Ravens, which the Ravens were resting their guys. You also don't have Joe Burrow for the Bengals. So a couple of that played factors into it, but I am going to go with the Bills of at least -10. Wind will be a huge factor in this game. Reports are like 20 to 40 mile per hour winds on and off through this game. So that's why I think that total is so low at 35. Just because that is going to play a factor into the long ball with Josh Allen. So a guy I'm going to be looking at more is going to be like a James Cook, and you kind of already pointed about Cook. So I think he's going to be the guy I'm going to be targeting in this game.
So you're saying don't go with either kickers on this team. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, I'm not going to go with either kicker.
Gale Force wins are tough to get.
Yeah.
This is another line that really scares me, -10. The Steelers have just been in games somehow for some reason. The Bills have not always been super impressive, but I guess I go with the Bills to cover this. Again, not confident. I'll go with the under 2 because I think the wind and Steelers offense isn't very good. So I'll say under 36, even though it's a really low number. And I like both running backs for the reasons you mentioned. I really like James Cook this week. Pittsburgh's allowed the 14th most fantasy points of running backs as well. And they've allowed 170 plus rushing yards 3 times this year. So I think Cook will get a workout. He got more work the second half of the season as well when they switched offensive coordinators. And I actually like the other running back, not Najee Harris this week. I like Jalen Warren because I think the Bills are up in this game. They're having to throw the ball more Steelers late in the game. So I like Warren to get some garbage catches out of the backfield. He's the better 3-down back over Najee Harris. So I kind of like Warren in this matchup. I would not be scared to use him as a flex play. All right, Logan, another game that people expect to be a blowout. That's the first one on Sunday. It's the Packers at the Cowboys, -7.5 for the Cowboys. I actually think that's moved. I can't remember what it opened at, but I want to say it was higher than that. The over-under is huge, though, at 50.5. Do you know if it's moved at all, Logan?
I do not, from what I remember on it.
Okay.
I'm sure we can find it.
I thought it was double digits when it opened, but maybe I'm wrong.
It could have easily have been. I feel like that's your initial reaction to go with Dallas on this, but I actually think I might go with the Packers on this just to cover that spread.
They're going to cover it.
I do think Dallas still wins, but we're always going to see some surprises during the NFL. And it wouldn't shock me if this is a Packers team that plays well in this game. I think Dallas has had some injuries on their defense that isn't as dominant as it's been in the past. There's been a couple games throughout these playoffs, or during the regular season, where Cowboys didn't look as dominant as they have. They either look amazing or they look very beatable. So it's just going to be which Dallas team shows up this week. I do like a lot of players for fantasy purposes because this is going to be in a dome. As we mentioned, there's going to be 3 games that weather will be impactful. So give me all the players in dome games.
That's a good call. Do you like the over or under for 50.5?
I'm going to go with the over.
Okay.
Again, as just mentioned with a dome, I like all the overs in dome games.
I actually like the over too, even with that huge number. Like you said, Cowboys haven't been as great defensively here later in the season. The Packers have been scoring some points, and I don't like the Packers defense a ton either, and especially in a dome like you mentioned. I think it'll be a really high scoring game. I say the Cowboys cover that though, -7.5. I really like them to win this game. I mean, it's the Cowboys, so you never know what's going to happen, but I say they win, cover that, go the over. I actually like Tony Pollard too this week because I think they get up
Yeah.
big. They run the ball more. He looked better last week, 17 carries for 70 yards and a score. The Packers are worse against the run than the pass as well. So I think Pollard does well in this matchup. And Dontavian Wicks is a guy I kind of like for the Packers. I know Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs could play this week. They've been banged up, so Wicks has been playing more. But either way, I think Wicks is involved. Had a 2-touchdown game last week. Packers are going to be playing from behind, I think, having to throw the ball more. So I think Wicks could be a good little sleeper play for fantasy teams this week. All right, next game, Logan. This is another one I think is going to be a really good one. Rams at the Lions, 51.5 on the line here. So this is the highest scoring game of the week, according to the line. And it's -3 for the Rams. So it's pretty much a pick'em game. -3 for the Lions, I'm sorry. So it's pretty much a pick'em game. You get that -3 implied at home. Do you think Rams shock the Lions here, or do you think the Lions can win this one?
I'm going to go with the Lions at home. It's their first home playoff game in forever with that. So they've got the home energy with that. So I do think those 3 points are very crucial with that playing a factor. But as you mentioned, these are two very good offenses, and they don't have the best defenses. So this can be a very high-scoring game. This is the reason why it's the highest over-under on this slate. I'm also going to go with the over on this game because I just think both offenses can move the ball very well, and their defenses struggle mightily. So I do think a lot of points will be scored, and Amon St. Brown is probably be my guy I'm going to target in fantasy with that.
He won a lot of championships this year. Amon-Ra St. Brown, just a huge finish to the season for him. Someone in the chat said they're taking their dad to the Rams at Lions game. That's awesome. I wish I would go to that one. That's going to be indoors, and it's going to be a good game. So good luck to you there, and enjoy the game. Should be a lot of fun.
I think we can all say we're all rooting for the Lions in this chat between us.
Yeah,
just because
exactly. Yeah, we're not Rams fans here in St. Louis. I'm sorry to say it, and it's sad because I think I actually kind of like some of the players on that team, but I just can't root for the owner with how they left us here in St. Louis. So we're bitter St. Louis Rams fans here. So we're not rooting for them, unfortunately. I like the Lions too, Logan. I think they win and cover. -3 at home. I know a lot of people think the Rams might win this game, but I think the Lions win it. Like you said, they're at home. They got a lot on the line, just kind of fired up. I think that whole fan base is fired up in Detroit, so it should be just an electric atmosphere there. I'm looking forward to watching that one. I like the offense as well, Logan, like you said, so I think I'm going with the over. I think there's going to be a ton of points. This will be the highest scoring game, in my opinion. I could see like 38-31 or something along those lines. I could see a score like that. So I like a lot of people offensively involved. I really like Matthew Stafford, though. Revenge game, even though I think he loses, he's been playing great. Multiple touchdowns, 5 of 6 games, 20-plus fantasy points, 5 of those games. Lions have allowed 320-plus passing yards, 3 straight games also. So not a good sign for that defense playing Stafford. I kind of like Jameson Williams this week as a little bit of a sleeper play. Big play threat in that offense. He was playing really well. He was held out that last game because of an ankle injury, but I think it was more of a precaution than anything. They kind of hoped they would have done that with Sam Laporta, so he didn't get hurt and a meaningless game for them. But oh well, Williams either way. He has 11 catches his last 3 games he's played. The Rams have allowed the 8th most fantasy points to receivers, so I think Williams can do well here. Maybe surprise people in this matchup. All right, last game, Logan. Eagles at Bucks. 11-6 Eagles playing some terrible football right now against the Bucks, who kind of like the Steelers make a case for worst playoff team in the tournament, so to say. So Eagles, Bucks +3 for the Bucks, 43.5 for the over/under. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I might actually go with the Bucks. I think there's still a lot to see with this Eagles with injury wise. Everyone's questionable for them. Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown get hurt in their Week 18 game. They both left early. Hurts had a middle finger injury that did not look good, but apparently it's not serious, so he should be playing. AJ Brown had an MRI yesterday. We're still waiting to see the results on that. Devontae Smith is questionable. You get DeAndre Swift is also questionable. So 4 players that are questionable for this Eagles team. I think if any of those miss the game, then I'm going to go with the Bucks. If they're all healthy, it's hard to go against those players when they're healthy or playing, but I'm still think I might go with the Bucks in this matchup.
So it's going to be Julio Jones. Julio Jones.
Yeah. Very much so. You got Julio Jones. Just replace AJ Brown with that.
Oh boy.
Well, there's also reports that there's going to be some rain during this game. I believe it was around like 80% chance of rain during this, and then also thunderstorms in the second half. So it's going to be a wet game, I think. So definitely can impact fantasy purposes if it's pouring down rain.
This weather is going to make things interesting.
I know.
weekend.
That's why you've got dome games. Everything that's outside is just ugly.
There's no snow though. I don't think it's just cold and windy.
Yeah.
So no snow. Maybe next weekend. We'll see.
Yeah.
if Buffalo has a home game, that could happen. All right. I guess I'm going with the Eagles. Another one I'm not confident in, but I'm still going to pick them. I just think they're more talented than the Bucks. Bucks just kind of squeaked that one out last week in a must-win game to get in against a bad Panthers team. So I'm just not completely sold on them, even with the Eagles playing bad down the stretch. They've been there before, so I trust them more at this point, even on the road. So I'm going with the Eagles to win. I'll say the under, though. Actually, you know what? I'm saying the over. 43.5 is pretty low, so I'll go over that. I think some points will be had. Eagles have not played great defensively all year, especially against the pass. So I like Baker Mayfield because of that. I'm kind of surprised by this, but Logan, I don't know if you realize this, but Mayfield ended the season 10th overall in fantasy quarterback scoring. Unbelievable.
That's wild. 28 touchdowns.
Yep. So he's been good. So he gets a good bad Philadelphia defense, which is a good matchup for Mayfield. So I think he'll do well. Mike Evans could have a big game also. And I like Jalen Hurts to produce in this matchup against the Bucks. They're really good against the run, the Bucks, but not good against the pass. They allowed the 8th most fantasy points to QBs. They've allowed 6 300-yard passing games this season. So while Hurts has had some turnover issues, he's still producing for fantasy teams, even with the turnovers. 21-plus fantasy points, 3 of his last 4 games. I think he gets it going in a good matchup for him this week. So I like the Eagles to win this one, even though I'm not confident in it, Logan. All right, Logan, that is our playoff preview for this weekend. We went over all of our games as well. We had the guys on from Wager Wire as well. So a really fun show today, Logan. I really appreciate you coming on, talking about the games, talking about strategy. Should be a lot of fun this weekend.
Yep, agreed. Thanks for having me on, Jeff. Yeah, as you mentioned, going to be a great week of football. Kind of after that Week 18 where it's kind of just dull for most leagues for fantasy purposes. We're back with playoff contests this week. So all types of contests in our draft lobby. So definitely make sure to check those out.
Yeah, go to rtsports.com, click on that Money League link. You can see everything you have to offer, including our Wager Wire postseason shootout. Like I said, we had on the guys from Wager Wire earlier. A lot of fun to talk to them and what they do. And they are the title sponsor of the Wager Wire shootout. $100,000 Wager Wire postseason shootout. Just an awesome contest. It's about half sold out right now, so get in it sooner than later. Go to rtsports.com and then click on that Money League link. All right, Logan, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it. Good luck to everybody out there in all of your playoff leagues and enjoy the playoffs this weekend. This has been Jeff Paur with RealTime Fantasy Sports.